me up, tear me down, ooh, like it was true. Oh, every word that you're saying, I got a grip, keep me staying. I'm like, oh Lord, pull me in and let me go. Should've known the first time you played with me like I was a devil, and I played with you like you were just a man. Wanna lay with you, but I'd never better from your love. These are the days. Take what you need, darling, I'm just here for you. Give me your love and physical affection. Give me the words to you to hold you, to take me to the heavens. Give me the best of all the grace. You make life worth living. You make life worth living. Babe, I know you're not shy. It's not the first. You got me high on expectations. You got a thing for letting me down. Not always around when I want you to stay with me.
Hey, good morning.
Feel better.
Good morning.
Doing all right?
Yeah, how about you?
Yep, good. Okay, let's jump straight into it. Just winding down the background. Okay, let's bring in the charts. Take a look what's going on. The usual nice little run up overnight. Obviously, huge failed breakdown. Sunday, that just kind of continued through Monday. A little difficult to find an entry. Sorry, I'm got my days wrong. Tuesday, a little difficult to find an entry yesterday, but there were a couple of opportunities. But obviously the big one was from the Sunday session. But pushed up pretty high, coming into a little bit of resistance, and we have sold off a little bit here into the open. Just looking at the 4 hour here on the left, we've kind of swept the full range of the channel that we've been in since, let's go back, where did that kind of, starting early, middle of February. So we've checked, flushed under the bottom of that, tagged a nice trend line here, the red line, and now bounced pretty much the back to the top side of that channel. Do have a little bit of a sell-off here this morning to work with. Doesn't look like much because this move is so large, but it's 50 points. Adam had already tweeted out, watch for traps of 65.92. That is technically trapped and played. I didn't engage in that, wasn't interested in that. I was kind of looking for the 86 level. Would have been more interested if we flushed under those London lows, but didn't get down there. But as ever with Adam, his wizardry and levels are playing out magically. I'm assuming you didn't get involved in anything there this morning. You're up 300 points on your runner or something like that.
So I would have thought it was somewhat interesting had we put in a formal failed breakdown there of the 86 low and then also reclaimed 92. That definitely would have made it a little bit more interesting. I was a little wary of, I'm not the biggest fan, and Adam mentioned this in a couple of his replies this morning, which is you got to be a little cautious on that first sell after a massive rally like this. And sometimes that can be a little risky right off the highs, especially when we kind of had a nice failed spike off of news there. So I personally was a little bit cautious here and not really, again, it's been a good week, so not really eager to put on something, right? Kind of the saying, like Adam always says, is like unless the trade has a chance of 90% working out, there's no need to be eager to put something on. So I didn't really feel the case yet. So personally, I think today I'm just gonna wait for some of the setups we kind of highlighted. I highlighted in the plan from last night, which 65-30 kind of being the first down failed breakdown spot from here. And until then, just gonna kind of let price play out. We eventually will obviously retrace some of this rally, and then it'll be key to see where we see buying step in and trap. So I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna be a little cautious. I think one of the things that I know personally for me has messed me up, and I'm sure for a lot of folks as well, is generally after these massive rallies, you get when you do start to retrace, price does love to put in a couple of these fake failed breakdowns where it looks like we're about to get a failed breakdown, and then it just kind of continues to go lower, and then by the end of the day you kind of wonder to yourself why you didn't just wait until your pre-planned entry came about much lower. So, that is one thing to be cautious about. Just let the kind of deep elevator sell happen, and really, just nothing to do until then.
Yeah, sounds good. Just to reiterate, yeah, we did put that sort of failed breakout above, which makes some of these higher levels a little less appealing. I think we touched on that a bit yesterday. Adam did, I think in his tweet this morning, he mentioned that what was the first down from the newsletter 65-64, that would be the first level he's looking to engage in today. If I'm not mistaken there. So if I can bring that up. So obviously, it was first support down when we wrote the newsletter. When he wrote the newsletter. But since then, it's now 100 points almost off the highs. Well, 90 points off the highs. So it becomes a lot more appealing there. And off the open yesterday evening, did kind of spike down to that level and bounce from it. So and obviously we had the midday high there too. So nice little bit of structure around that level. If we do flush down into it, it'll be a 90-point sell. Hopefully put in a reasonable flush and potential FBD of that level. So yeah, for me, had we not put in this little bounce here, I would have been interested in 86. Now it's and with the failed breakout above, much less appealing. So I'll be watching this 64 for sure. 75 was kind of the key level that the bulls were looking to recover. Obviously, we did that yesterday evening. We've held it on a back test once already. So that's just kind of a key pivot from the last couple of weeks. We broke that down the latter half of last week and have since recovered it. So yeah, for me, first level of interest, 65, 64. Is that not, so you mentioned 30 is kind of the midday / early afternoon low that we pushed on up. Is that the first level you're interested in? You wouldn't take a look at 64?
It's interesting. I think so Adam just replied at 9 a.m. to someone saying, is 65-30 the first primary one you see? And he said yes for me. I'm extremely picky with my trades. So I think that's what he's eyeing first too. So that's also kind of the first real failed breakdown I had set up from yesterday. I know 64 now, there is somewhat of a low. It's a little interesting there though, because we do have sort of a shelf right above it's 75, 80-ish area. So, again, there's always this price kind of structure starts looking a little weird, right? When we have these massive rallies and then, there's no real, obvious V-shaped significant low per se. It's just a couple of these mini shelves and things like that. So, I think it comes down to a little bit of self-awareness, just knowing, is this something that you know how to play properly or not? So, just from my personal kind of experience on what I've taken losses on in the past. I think it's after these kind of days, I prefer to wait for the deeper elevator sell, just because I know along the way there's a lot of opportunities where you can get trapped.
Yeah, good advice. Okay. One major thing to mention on the news front: Trump is doing some sort of press conference at 9 p.m. this evening. Who knows what that's going to be about? I think the expectation is some sort of war correspondence, but I think also the last time there was a pre-planned announcement like this, it turned into something so irrelevant, like the White House renovation or something. It was, I can't remember what it was, but it was something so obscure. We were all expecting big news, and it was an absolute nothing burger. So, but anyway, just be cognizant of that. Yeah, we have been getting huge moves, so we could just degenerate a little bit here. There's potential for that as well. If volatility dies off, don't try and force anything at these high levels. But let's see if we can move sideways a little bit, build some structure. Just look to play the edges, and obviously in our case that means the bottom edge. Okie dokie. So with that, yeah, key levels 64, 25, 30, and then some bigger ones below if we do get back down there. Obviously
Yep, and like I said, the 86.92 still remains valid traps as well. If obviously just keeping in mind context, it is a little bit uh, trickier, but it is still a valid entry. We could still trap 92 and also put in a formal field breakdown of that 86 low. The only thing, we have now bounced from 90, so you want to, if we do get a failed breakdown at 86, you want to make sure it clears 90 and 92. So if you're doing the danger zone of Adam, he would probably do +5 from 92 and it would come up to 97. So just keep that in mind. If you were looking to take that trade, you'd probably take it above 97.
Yeah, question in the chat there. For NAP on the current low quality sweep, would it be safer to let 6604 reclaim? I don't have all of Adam's levels marked on my chart here. I'm assuming 6604 is a major.
Yeah, it's a major, and no, you wouldn't need to wait for that per se, because the 92 is really what you're playing, right? So once you reclaim the 92 major, and give it that 5 points, taking it above 97 and targeting '04 for your first profit take, that would be fine. Obviously, if a price starts ripping though, I guess maybe that's where it could be a little bit more trickier, because you probably at that point don't want to long at maybe 6602 or 6603 where it's just a point off of it. But in general, if you were able to get a 97 entry there and then trim into '04, that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, you got to be a little careful. It's kind of finding the right balance of being as sure as you can be that the level is holding, adding the danger zone, or but if you keep adding on to that, waiting, then you're expecting price to run, or requiring price to run that much further. And when we're this high up, that becomes a lower probability, I would say, overall.
Exactly. There's a little bit of like you don't want to get into too much of a trap of waiting for too many reclaims, because then you're just starting to at that point get in at a way higher price. And, at that point, then it's a little bit discretionary, right? As we talked about in terms of, do you think price has juice to keep going? And, I don't think either one of us has the greatest answer to that as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for example, I'm more of the other way around, where we've got these stacked lows of, like, I just call it 87 and 92. I'm more prefer to like put the danger zone on the lower low there and maybe give it a little buffer above the higher level. That's not what Adam says or would do, so take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, generally prefer not to be pushing, waiting for price to go too high before taking an entry. But anyway, that's already played now, the 92 watch for trap. So let's wait for another little flush, hopefully off the open, to give us something more. Okay, well, opening bell's about to ring. Thanks for the questions. We'll catch everyone in Discord. Bye for now.